The story began on a night filled with chaos. Buildings were collapsing, fires raged across the city, and monsters roamed freely, sowing destruction wherever they went. In the midst of the devastation, a monstrous creature appeared without warning and charged at a man whose hands had taken the shape of blade-like weapons. Without hesitation, the man struck the monster down with a swift, clean blow. He remained unfazed, as though eliminating such creatures had become routine. He calmly noted to himself that it was his 30-second kill. Just then the scene froze, and time rewound. It was revealed that all of this had begun after the Great Catastrophe, an event that had taken place on Halloween night in the year 2024. From that day onward, the world had descended into a nightmarish hell. Monstrous beings had emerged en masse, and the power difference between them and humans had proven immense. Only a select few individuals, those who had transcended the limits of ordinary humanity, were able to fight back. These people were known as class adaptives. The narrative then returned to the present battlefield, where soldiers were desperately fending off yet another monstrous threat. They called for backup, but no reinforcements came. Just when their defeat seemed inevitable, the man with blade-like hands reappeared. With brutal efficiency, he dispatched the creature and silently acknowledged it as his 33rd kill. One of the soldiers recognized him and realized that the man was none other than S-Class Adapter K. Before anyone could react further, a new monster emerged, much larger than the others and not listed in the mission intel. Adapter K questioned his communicator, demanding to know why the intel had claimed there were only 33 monsters. He asked if he had been deceived. A calm voice responded, reminding K to address him as Master, and casually mentioned that some margin of error was to be expected, especially since he himself was not on the front lines. Before K could respond, a soldier shouted a warning. The new monster struck with immense force, sending K flying and crashing into the ground. He lay there, motionless. Panic spread among the troops. One of them asked if he had died. Another muttered in doubt, suggesting that the organization's promise of freedom for class adaptives might have been a lie after all. Barely conscious, K reflected on his condition. He had never truly desired glory or power. He had simply wished for freedom, even for just a single day. As that thought echoed in his mind, his vision faded to black. Then everything changed. He opened his eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling. The room was still and peaceful. Floating in the distance was a peculiar sight, a flying pig-shaped balloon. He glanced down at his hands and was struck by their small, fragile size. It took him a moment to comprehend that he had been reincarnated, as a baby. A gentle female voice reached his ears, calling his name and expressing relief that he had awakened. He looked up to see a beautiful young woman smiling warmly at him. She held him lovingly and introduced herself as his mother. Confused, the man-turned-infant looked around. There were no signs of war, no monsters, no screaming. He could hear the calm chatter of people outside. He began to suspect that he had entered an alternate timeline, one in which the Great Catastrophe had not yet happened. If that were true, then the organization might not exist in this world either. He felt a brief glimmer of hope. He believed he was free. A mental image came to him, of himself as a victorious boxer, arms raised in triumph. But the celebration was short-lived. He noticed a calendar on the wall. The date read October 31st, 2020, exactly 4 years before the Great Catastrophe. He realized he had been given a second chance. In this body, he believed, he could do anything. But the thought quickly gave way to frustration as he found himself unable to even sit up. He was still in the early stages of infancy, unable to move freely, let alone speak. He glanced back at the woman who now called herself his mother. He briefly considered whether he should depend on her, but quickly rejected the idea. Instead, he resolved to use her to his advantage. However, as he observed her clumsily knocking over boxes and spilling flour across the kitchen table, he sighed internally. She seemed completely inept. She made a chaotic attempt to cook and nearly set the kitchen on fire in the process. Watching this, he concluded that she was hopelessly useless. She beamed at him, cheerfully announcing that his meal would soon be ready. He observed her with a look of quiet resignation, already sensing that this new life was going to be more difficult than anticipated. Then the doorbell rang. She hurried to answer it. A voice outside claimed to be delivering a package, but something felt off. The voice didn't sound human. As the door opened, a twisted, monstrous hand reached through the doorway. A creature disguised as a man attempted to push a package inside. Despite his infant body, Kay did not feel fear. He quickly scanned the room and spotted his pillow. Using his limited mobility, he tossed it onto the floor. As the monster moved toward him, he rolled off the bed and landed safely on the cushion. He instinctively knew that even brushing against the creature could prove fatal. He analyzed the threat with the experience of a seasoned warrior. This particular monster, he deduced, was likely an amplification type, growing more powerful the longer it fought. He also noted that the tentacle sprouting from its head would be the most dangerous part of its body. Despite the odds, he decided to gamble. He rolled his milk bottle toward the creature. As it charged at him, it stepped on the bottle, slipped, and crashed through the window, falling out of sight. For a moment, he believed the danger had passed, but then something bizarre occurred. A tail, strange and foreign, emerged from his back. Acting on its own, it lashed out and pierced the monster's body, ending it once and for all. He stared at the scene in bewilderment, silently wondering if the tail was consuming the monster.